Almonds, and I am outside of Boston right now, where it's raining and cold. But I just want to welcome you tonight to our Be Better Tuesdays that we have every week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And, we're really, really excited that you take some time out and you join us just to come hang out and, learn about being better in all different areas of our life. We focus on being better and human optimization. And, we want it to be comfortable. We want you guys to, feel free to stay for 5 minutes, stay for the whole time, whatever you'd like. But I'm really, really excited tonight, Nancy and I both, because we've got two absolutely awesome guests that we're really excited to hear from. First and foremost, most of you know Dustin Schaffer, who we are lucky enough to work with and have involved with our team. He's an absolutely fantastic guy. Got to meet him personally in Dallas, full of energy. He's happy, he's energetic, and you get such a great vibe from him. But a little bit about Dustin, the things that I know that he was very young, about 18, when he went into the Marine Corps. And so thank you for your service, Dustin, as we're looking at Veterans Day. Thank you to all you veterans out there and for, keeping me and my family safe. And I know that you went into reconnaissance, I believe, and messaging and that type of thing, and he ranked up really quickly, and he was honorably discharged from there. He is what they call a MAT specialist, and I'm going to try to get this right, Dustin. Muscle Activation Techniques. Mm-hmm. Did I get it right?
That's correct.
Awesome. And he has worked with many clients, helping them to lose weight, to achieve mobility, to help with, cardiovascular issues, all types of things. So he's really got a servant's heart and really wants to help. And he knows a lot about the ketogenic lifestyle, and that's why we have him here tonight, is to really share his expertise on that. And I always am so grateful to him to learn something new. Our other guest, I'm going to let Nancy introduce you to, because she met Brian first. So Nance, over to you.
So I met Brian Williamson in a very funny roundabout way through somebody that I met on Pinterest, and she introduced me to one of his Facebook groups, and then I got reading a little bit about what he does and his story, and I found it very intriguing. I believe he started this whole journey.
I think we lost Nance. Did she freeze up for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Brian, I hope that you'll accept my apologies, because I don't really know your bio.
That's okay.
So maybe you could just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. That would be easier. How about that?
Sure. Like
Sorry.
Nancy was saying.
It's okay, Nance. We're going to let Brian go ahead and tell his story. How's that? Go ahead, Brian.
All right. So Nancy and I met through a group that I started on Facebook called Ketogenic Success, and it's kind of an outcropping of my website, which is ketoevangelist.com, where, as you could probably guess by the name, I espouse the benefits of being ketogenic in all aspects. And started that a few years ago because I started being ketogenic a few years ago as a result of my son having epilepsy, and ketogenic diet has been shown for close to 100 years as being not necessarily a cure, but a very helpful way to manage epilepsy. Approximately 1/3 of all children who go on a ketogenic diet will show no epileptic signs, period. And the research is showing that if they can stay very ketogenic for a 2-year period of time, they'll get the most benefit from it. So after that 2-year period of time, they may never have a seizure again. No neurosurgeon, but it literally rewires the brain, from what I've read, to that capacity. So I started my journey as that. Got really into it. Decided to start something as a way to reach other people. and to build something, and that's where I am today.
That's absolutely awesome. So how old was your son, Brian?
He was 11 when he had his first seizure, and he was averaging a seizure every 2 to 6 months for the next. He's 17 now, so for the next probably 5 years, it was every 2 to 6 months. And there was a period of time in there where he was having he had, I think, 3 seizures in 1 week. One of them the most severe. And if anyone has a relative or a loved one who is epileptic, when I say this, I'm not being dramatic. I literally thought I was watching my son die in this particular instance. So it was at a point where we decided, something serious has to change. I knew what ketogenic diet was. I just wasn't interested in doing it at the time, but I realized that if it's going to help my son, I might as well model it for him and try to get him on board with it, and it worked. So, he's been seizure-free for about 18 months now. He's starting to drive. He'll get his license hopefully in a month or two. He's starting college next year, so he's getting the freedom that he should have at this age, which is good.
It's fantastic. So he has a life. He has a life.
Yes, exactly. He's getting his life back, right? That's
amazing. And, that's how I first really kind of heard about ketogenics a long time ago, was through the Charlie Foundation, right, and Meryl Streep.
Right.
And I remember thinking, wow, that's awesome. And so through the years, I've kind of learned more and more, but really never went towards it until my husband became really, really ill. And he has an integrative medicine doctor, and she said, listen, you need to try this. You know, and it was the same thing. He was in the hospital for 7 months last year. We thought he was dying. Everyone thought he was dying. And then, as soon as we started the ketogenic diet, it's been 6 months now. He's not been in the hospital, not once.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's really, really amazing. So Nancy kind of has a list of the questions, but I'll kind of wing it around. I want to open it up to Dustin. Dustin, I don't know if you just want to quickly introduce yourself one more time, your expertise for those people that might be listening that don't know you. We got to unmute you.
I'm good. So like I said before, I was a former recon Marine college athlete that got really sick. I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's when I was 26 and needed a double knee replacement. So my body wore out early in life. And I used this lifestyle in combination. I used MAT to help heal my neuromuscular system and to kind of put my body back together. And I was dying young. I mean, by the time I was 24 years old, they asked me if I may never play with my kids because I was wearing out so bad. And this lifestyle just I grabbed a hold of it because there was no other answers for me. At that point, there was nothing anybody could do besides me taking responsibility and really learning how to change who I was and how my body worked. And through that, I was already in the fitness industry or starting the fitness industry. And I took this approach to all my clients because there's success in it across all boards. And then as I got more involved, I started getting more connected with medical professionals, naturopathic doctors, cardiologists, performance coaches, and I've been consulting with them and more of a problem solver and troubleshooter for them to help come up with solutions when things just don't make sense. And I was very fortunate to be the lead team of bringing this product to market back in May, and coaching the very first person to ever use this product. And we've seen just a tremendous changes over the last 5 months, basically allowing what I've been wanting to do. I did a big event on Saturday in San Diego. We had a great turnout, and the model behind the event, the message that I was sending out, is that I've been teaching a lifestyle that I believe is superior to what we've been taught in health and wellness to this day. The challenge was it was obtainable to do the lifestyle, but it wasn't sustainable for most people because most people wanted to go out to Vegas or go to a wedding and vacation, and they just couldn't stick with it. They always kept falling in and out too much, and then they just gave up. So with this product, I'm now able to make it sustainable, where I can have you go on vacation or go to your wedding, and maybe where you're going to screw it up a little bit. Even my brother-in-law, Brian, that has seizures, he's not quite to your spot where your son is, but we're working with a new doctor right now, and we're going to put him strict for up to 2 years, but we're also utilizing this technology where I kept him in ketosis the whole time on vacation. utilizing the product, even though his diet wasn't perfect. And then as soon as he got back home, we went right back to the diet, so he still got the high amounts of ketones in his system and prevented him from having the tics and seizures that he has. Still a lot of testing in there, a lot of work, but that's what the patent was based upon and developed for, was exactly that. So I'm just fortunate that I got to be part of the team to bring this out, and the only reason that I may know more than Brian or about this product is because I've been doing it longer. But I know we talked the other day, and you know tons about this diet and lifestyle, and I'm excited that you're on here and to bring your knowledge and expertise, because I think in this community, if we can bring more like-minded people, we can help a lot more people than just the people that have seizures, and I think that's what's exciting about this.
Oh, absolutely, Dustin. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, again, we talk about be better, right? I mean, everybody's got a different issue. It started with the seizures, but, we're seeing people feel better from aches and pains and migraines. And my husband, who was an undiagnosed mystery, intestinal issues, he's better. There's so much. And, for me, like, I did the Atkins diet years ago. And just what you said, Dustin, I could do it, but it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't sustainable. I could get into ketosis, but I go to church, and we take sacrament on Sunday, and we take bread. Every time I ate a piece of that bread, I was thrown right back out of ketosis, right? So I was maybe only in ketosis for like 1 day a week, right? And so with this disruptive technology that we have, like you say, under an hour, we're right back into it.
Yeah,
Nancy, are you back?
Yeah, I'm having one heck of a time with my internet tonight.
All right, I just want to make sure you were back. Go ahead, Dustin.
And I was just going to say, I had a performance coach come and speak at my event, and I asked him this question. I go, why don't you have all, because he knows the benefits of ketosis, I go, why don't you have all your clients do this? And he goes, because not everybody's me. He goes, not everybody has that same willpower desire. And that was something, and Brian and I kind of touched on this a little bit when we were chatting, is that not everybody has that determination like I do. I can just turn it off. I can just stop all carbs, change my life. And I'm that type of person, but my clients are not me. And I wanted to reach more people, and the way to do that for me was, I've been looking for this product, looking for something like this to be able to adapt to the lifestyle that I like. So that's why I think it's so disruptive. And I do want to just mention this. I know we've talked about a couple of medical things here, that we're not treating any diseases or medicines, and we're not diagnosing or saying that any of that. Please work with your doctors and Google and research the benefits of ketones in your disorders or whatever they may be. But we want to make sure we're clear of that.
Right. We do not diagnose or make any claims, for sure. But that's, that point is huge, Dustin, because even the people that I'm lucky enough now to be involved with and that, trying to help, I also went all in, and I, got rid of all carbs. But like you say, not everybody can, and sometimes that's the first question I get. I can't give bread up, and I'm like, okay, whoa, we'll take this baby steps. Maybe not have it every day or whatever it is, and I agree that with this product, it helps us to be able to kind of help everyone. So absolutely. Nance, I know you had some questions, so let's see if you can come on and you can direct them, Brian or Dustin, wherever you want to go, darling. Maybe not.
Hi.
Oh, I hear you.
I have a couple of questions. Brian, on your recent page on your Keto Evangelist blog, you talked about what are the best artificial sweeteners. You know that article that you wrote?
Yes.
I know you must get this question a lot, and I get it. I get this as well, and I don't have the right answers. That's why I constantly am searching for things. I'm a little confused about things like when you read stuff about where it talks about sugar alcohol. What is sugar alcohol versus like a sweetener versus I use stevia, but I'm not even sure that that's right.
Okay, so there's not looking at it. If I'm going from memory, there are 4 categories of sweeteners. You've got natural sweeteners, you've got artificial sweeteners, you've got sugar alcohols, and you've got one other that I can't remember off the top of my head. But The differences are basically how the molecules are combined, whether or not they've got actual hydrogens and carbons with them, the whole bit. So a sugar alcohol actually has, it's generally, like erythritol, for example, is the most common sugar alcohol that's mentioned. And that is essentially, it's a natural sweetener, but it's not a sugar from a chemical perspective. Its molecular makeup is actually more of an alcohol, but it has a sweet taste to it. It's extracted from hardwoods. That's how they get it. They take hardwoods and they extract this alcohol from it, and they refine that down, and that's how they get erythritol. So if it's a sugar alcohol, it's generally extracted from some sort of plant material of some kind. And so that's a natural sweetener or not of some kind is essentially anything that you would find in nature. For example, sugarcane or sugar beets or honey. Those are natural sweeteners that you find. Stevia is also a natural sweetener. The difference between those other three that I just mentioned, sugarcane, sugar beets, honey, and stevia is a natural sweetener, but it's not a sugar. The other three are actual sugars. Stevia is just a plant, and I'm a big advocate for stevia, so this is why I'm going to talk about it. It has zero glycemic impact. It has zero insulin impact. So essentially, you can use it to sweeten stuff without running the risk of insulin spikes, without running the risk of blood sugar increases, those kinds of things. So stevia being a natural sweetener, this is why I use it, is because it doesn't have the negative impact. It's not technically a sugar. It's just it has a sweet taste to it, but it's just a plant. It just happens to be a plant that tastes sweet. So artificial sweeteners is the last one that I was talking about, and essentially those are just concocted. Those are built in a lab. They're manufactured in some way, and they taste sweet. When you take something like saccharin, is an older artificial sweetener, but it was originally, and I'm not anti-artificial sweetener necessarily, not in the same sense that a lot of people are, but saccharin was originally created to be a cockroach killer, but it was horrible at the job of being a cockroach killer, but it was great at being able to sweeten the guy's coffee. Now, how he figured that out, I don't know, but he decided that he would pivot and market it as a sweetener because he noticed that there were it didn't have any calories, and it was completely. So when I'm talking about the best artificial, and stop me if I'm rambling, because I will. A sweetener is anything that makes something sweet, but a sugar is something that's going to spike your blood. So when I'm talking about an artificial sweetener, what's the best one? One of the things I talk about in that article is it really depends upon you. I have a friend who she's insulin resistant, so she can't have any sugar, but when she eats anything with erythritol in it, she starts craving all kinds of sugar stuff. So for her, she's got to stay away from all sugar stuff, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no leeway, because if she's tasting sweet stuff, it's causing her to crave. She's got to stay away from it. So in that article, that's one of the things that I talk about. The best artificial sweetener is the one that you can have without spiking your blood, and it doesn't make you go crazy, and it doesn't throw you off the wagon. So if there isn't one that is like that for you, you don't get any. That's I know you guys were talking about how easing into things, or my wife and I are polar opposites in that regard. I'm either 100% on or 100% off. There's no middle ground. My wife will ease into things, she'll ease out of things, and it's completely different for me. So that's my guidance to people is if you're gonna throw yourself off the wagon because you eat this thing, don't eat it, period. It's not worth the risk. Hope that wasn't too much of a rambling answer. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. That was absolutely great, because I've wondered that too, and I use stevia, and I'm one that can't ease in or out either. I'm either all in or
Right.
all out, and we talk about a lot. Dustin talks about it. Michael Rutherford talks about it. We all talk about we have to learn our bodies, right? We have to understand and learn our own bodies so that we can tweak it for what's right for us. So, no, I really, really appreciate that. Dustin, do you have anything you want to add about sweeteners?
I think, Brian, you hit it right on the head, and I would tell people the same thing is, you want to start with the stevia, and then if you're not medically inclined and you can tolerate, erythritol or xylitol to small amount to combine it, and you use it temporarily and it doesn't cause any spikes or kick you out of ketosis, then utilize it as a tool. But like for anything, I think we all know is that the more we get into this lifestyle, the less you have those cravings for sweetness anyway. It almost kind of seems mute. But it's a great tool to start walking people in. And even if it's a transitional tool that we need to utilize to get people to just change those behaviors, I will utilize it for that. But long term, we have to learn our systems. And that's what makes probably this the most challenging is everybody wants a cookie cutter approach, but we can only give you the cookie cutter to walk you there. And then once you're in there, we have to hack around to figure out how it's going to work for your system. And it might be different for you and your husband and your wife and your child slightly. Right. But we just have to understand that when you're ready.
If I can piggyback on that, I can't tell you that every day I'm repeating that to people, and oftentimes it's the same people. Someone will see someone have success in some area, so they want to do it exactly the same way, and they can't figure out why it's not working for them. And I have to tell them constantly, everyone's different. At some point in time, someone's going to catch on. Everyone's different. You've got to figure out your own way. You've got to figure out your own body because it's going to be different. I could probably eat erythritol, but I won't because I know it's going to make me want to dive into about 1.5 gallons of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. So I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be the catalyst for that. One of my focuses is on the mental aspect of staying healthy, getting and staying healthy. And you've got to know these triggers that are going to set you off and avoid them as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of it is psychology at the end of the day. And some of these behaviors have been installed in people for a long period of time. So it's just, be patient, take your time. You don't have to do it all at once. I mean, it might be 6 months before you can, get to that point. And as long as you're moving down the field, man, keep going, and don't beat yourself up for it. And when you get to that right place and you're able to maintain it, then be happy with that part of it. So.
Yeah, there is a condition out there. I don't know. You guys have probably heard about this. I mean, it's called a phenomenon of craving, right? Yeah. And there is a phenomenon of craving, and they talk about that a lot with alcoholics and alcohol too. That as long as they don't take that drink, that phenomenon of craving does not kick in. But if they take any alcohol substance, they've even found that some people, if they do mouthwash, it will begin that cycle of the phenomenon of craving. And and that's what happens with these sugars. I mean, they say sugar's more addictive than cocaine is what I read in these research articles. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I mean, I see these articles about it, and so exactly, some of us have to ease in. Some of us can jump in, but as we learn who we are and what we can do, we affect that change. I know Nance, her question I think was, how about these sweeteners? Do they affect people's weight loss?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I will say this in the research that I've done, and this is why I use stevia, is because stevia has the least amount of impact upon people. The other, even though the sugar alcohols, even though they're 0 calories, even though that for the majority of people they don't cause insulin spikes, they still can in some. And again, it comes back to you've got to know yourself. So if you have some, and over a period of a couple of days you start noticing some changes in the negative, you got to let it go. So yes, it can definitely impact.
Okay, good.
Which is unfortunate because a lot of times healthy stuff is sweetened with these things, and and people think they're staying healthy, but in reality they're hurting themselves slowly.
Right. No, that was really good because I've had a lot of people ask me that, and I wasn't sure, and neither was Nancy. So thank you. And you said yes right away too, Dustin, huh?
Yeah. If it impacts, I mean, it gets to a situation where when talking to Maria Emmerich, it's like some people literally a squeeze of a lemon can knock them out. They're that sensitive, and typically those are people that have been dealing with weight loss. I mean, just typically been dealing with weight loss on and off their entire life. They're on medications. They've been dealing with X, Y, and Z. The person that walks into the Macy's and they smell the perfume aisle and they want to pass out, they're just sensitive. Their system just, and those are, I mean, most of the time, those are the people that are going to have the issue. So I'm always, either you go all the way in or you walk in, but you just got to know your system, and yes, so it can impact those people.
Wow. Yeah, I remember Maria sharing that too, and I forgot. So thank you for telling me that again. I know one of the other questions that I had, because I know that we're doing the keto lifestyle. And we focus on 75 to 80% healthy fats, about 15 of proteins, right? About 5 with the carbs. Now, if you can eat too much protein, right? Mm-hmm. And because is it my understanding that protein also somehow converts to sugar in large amounts?
It can if it's overconsumed, especially at one sitting. It actually can break back down into sugar and can spike blood sugar. So that's the challenge, because we're coming off of so right now we're in this unique place in our world, right? We just ate like humans ate for a long time, right, wrong, or indifferent, and then we got into this low fat craze over the last 30, 40 years. But what ended up happening when the low fat came, then the low carb, we realized carbs were bad. So the only thing that was left was protein. So people started going way up in protein, and then so it was always high protein. Everything was high protein, and protein's very important, and it's a very, very important tool that our body needs, especially for the amino acids, the building blocks. But if overconsumed, can impact people, and that is something. If somebody's plateauing, especially if they're a non-athlete, I will say, hey, let's just come back a little bit. As long as we're not too low a protein, quote unquote, for too long, you may need to go a little bit less, and then you can slowly add it up later as your activity levels come up. So I definitely am always open to changing that and modifying that. And that's like the true ketogenic diet is it's even more extreme than what we're recommending. But some people may need that to get the bigger result, because of their metabolic issues from the past, or digestive problems that they may have.
Right. No, that's good, because I know a lot of people think of the Atkins diet and they're just like, oh, you're just eating massive pounds of bacon and protein and that's all you're eating, and that never really made sense to me either, was having excessive amounts of protein. And so this makes more sense to me, to have it. But it's really good to know that, again, if somebody's plateauing, we tell everybody to give a try to the MyFitnessPal app there, mm-hmm. To get your macros figured out, because I know I thought I was in a certain range, and when I did that, I went, oh my gosh, my protein was way higher than my fat. Mm-hmm.
And Brian, I don't know if you see that. Do you see that often in your practice? Do you see that people, when they do the numbers, they start realizing they're more one way than the other?
Oh yeah, I can guarantee you, anyone who's not tracking is eating more protein than they think they are. Not eating enough fat, guaranteed. And strangely enough, people when they first start keto, they seem to be good about the carbs. They don't really overconsume carbs. Mm-hmm. Once they're educated, once they realize that, hey, this Quest bar actually is carby, don't eat it, that kind of thing. But almost every single person to an individual, when they start measuring, their fat's not high enough and their protein's not low enough, and they're shocked. And the first thing they say is, I don't know how I'm going to eat more fat. And that's when I let them know how.
Well, why don't you tell us? Why don't you guys tell us? How do you eat more fat?
So the biggest vehicle for fat is green leafy vegetables and coffee. Those are the two ways that everyone, or tea if you don't like coffee. You put your coconut oil and your butter and your heavy whipping cream inside your coffee first thing in the morning or whenever, and that will be plenty of fat for half the day. I do 3 tablespoons of coconut oil, 3 tablespoons of butter, and a copious amount of heavy whipping cream in my coffee in the morning. And I'm not really hungry at all for the rest of the most of the day. So, and the other thing is salads. Salads really are only a vehicle for some sort of fatty dressing,
right,
or cheese of some kind, or avocados. I eat a Cobb salad twice a week only because I can't not eat it. It's the only place I have available to me. If I had my choice, I would be eating the plate full of bacon. So. And I don't do salad dressing, not because there's anything inherently wrong with it. I've never liked it. so I'll eat the
Yeah,
salad
me
with.
either. Yay, it's a partner for me.
Right. Yeah.
I
So
don't
I'll
like
eat
it
the
either.
salad with Parmesan cheese and red pepper flakes, and then I'll go buy a bag of pork rinds, and that'll be my fat for the meal. So.
I'm just like you. I didn't like salad dressing, but I did buy some avocado oil, and it doesn't have a lot of flavor, so I drizzle that on it.
I have hated mayonnaise my entire life.
Me
But
too.
I have decided that I'm going to try to make my own with some avocado oil, just to see if it doesn't make me gag. So we'll see. That's an experiment in the making.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you guys before we were on here earlier, you guys saw me eating, and I found some really clean beef or pork sausage, Italian pork sausage, with no sugar in it, and then I have sauerkraut, and I use duck fat. So about 2 tablespoons of duck fat on that, and one of the main flaws that I found in the fat, and that's why Deb, I got to point this out, is you use the word healthy fats, and I catch myself doing that same thing, and I forget that I have to actually redefine that for people, because in this lifestyle, one of the healthiest fats you can consume is saturated.
Right.
Because if we overconsume omega-6s, it's actually not good. And so you don't need that many of the omega-6 oils from things like olive oil and things like your nut oils. So, but saturated fat is something that I find that when people are also struggling, especially maybe they start noticing their joints get a little sore, that they're over-consuming the nut oils and omega-6s, and I need to get their saturated fat up because they believe those still is bad. So we say healthy, and then they think those are bad, so then they go back to these other oils that seem to be approved, and now everybody's drinking a half a bottle of olive oil a day. And and I really want them to get these other saturated fats in from animal sources or coconut oil or avocados and things like that. So so when I always like to define that and bring that back around. And Brian, exactly right. I mean, that's a great way to do it. I believe the vegetables are just the same way. They're a catalyst for fat. I mean, you sauteing your greens, man. You can saute it in bacon fat. You can saute it in lard. You can saute it in butter. You can saute it in coconut oil. So it's a wonderful tool.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, I'll get that out of my repertoire and remember that, because you're actually very right, because I've felt it myself. You know, when the beginning transition, I'm like, well, but these are supposed to be good, you know. So I totally get it.
Well, it was funny today because I had a vendor rep with me in the car, which is different. Like they sell food to us, and then we in turn sell it to other people. So this fella was from Export Packers, which they do all our frozen fish and seafood. And it was funny because he takes me out for lunch, and I have to go through, my whole little what I'm going to eat and what I'm not going to eat. But he was horrified when he heard about how much fat I was consuming. He was horrified, and his biggest concern was, and I'm sure every one of us has got the same thing, oh my goodness, your cholesterol, what's happening? So how do you explain that? Because I was literally feeling like I was on trial. I was on trial.
My favorite way to explain it is actually to share a video. There's a couple really good. Peter Attia has a good one. Jeff Volek has a really good one. That's my favorite way, because when they articulate it from the medical, from their industry, it makes it easier. But a lot of research is now showing that basically everything we thought we knew, didn't know. When they measure LDL fats, there's actually different forms of LDL fats, and the sizes all matter. So there's just not a true representation of that. They're showing evidence is after the age of 50, there's very little evidence that a statin really shows any prolonging life at all, and there's many more negative side effects to it. But the hard thing is you're overcoming, 30 years of him being brainwashed. So you're not going to try to change his mind. You're just going to try to open his mind up to the other possibility. And so just saying, hey, listen, there's a lot of doctors and researchers now suggesting that we're misled, and this is a way better way of life, and I feel way better. And go check your numbers. It's pretty amazing across the board. I'm seeing amazing number changes medically. And then go, hey, I'll send you a video and watch this. And that's how I do it. Brian, I don't know if you have another way, but
I'm less diplomatic about it than that. I generally, so I like to question why I believe things, because that way it reinforces why I actually believe it, or it makes me realize that I don't actually believe it. So I recently had a conversation like that with someone. I was coming in. He was talking about eating, a plate full of bacon and how it would be bad, and got on the subject of cholesterol. And he said, "Oh, but meat's really horrible for your cholesterol." And I said, "Why would you say that?" And all I could say is, "Well, that's what everyone always says." I'm like, "Well, who says that? I want to know. Tell me who tells you that." "Well, doctors." "Well, how did the doctors know? They looked at the studies." "Well, how do they know the studies are right?" And I'm trying to force them back. And then finally, when they're like, "Oh, you're frustrating me," I say, "Look, here's the situation. Here's the deal. You cannot cite me a single source that says high cholesterol is bad. You can cite me several sources that says that small, dense LDL particles will cause plaque in your blood vessels. And I agree with that. You know what causes small LDL particles? Carbs. You know what makes LDL particles get really, really big? Saturated fat. So why, again, is eating bacon bad? That's kind of the idea of how I usually get into fistfights with people about things like that. So,
That is great. That is great to know.
Well, it was funny because even though he's our seafood guy, our frozen seafood guy, their new product that they're carrying are raw pork rinds that we were showing restaurants about dropping into the fryer today and how to do them and how to make hot, fresh pork rinds. Awesome. This is the first ride-along I've had in like 4 months that I could eat every single single stop. I'm like, let's shake some different seasonings on this.
Right. For sure, yeah.
I love pork rinds, man. I use them for all kinds of things.
Well, you'd be surprised. Pork rinds are actually, how they're manufactured, they actually have less fat in them than you would possibly think. Believe it or not, they have less fat in them. They're rendered down, they're dried, and then they're like little itty bitty. I wish I'd kept some to show you what they actually look like to start off with.
Yeah, they're dehydrated. They're dehydrated. They look like toenails.
Yes, it's the craziest thing. And of course, you go to show this to a chef, eh? So we're at their deep fryers, we're putting this stuff in, we're putting another basket on top, and nothing's really happening for a few minutes. So we're having a conversation. Then all of a sudden they poof up and it pushes the other basket out. It's quite something. And you can almost take them right from the fryer and put them in your mouth. They don't burn your mouth like a hot French fry would. I can't explain it, but it's the coolest thing ever. And I'm not even kidding you. Every single restaurant in my territory is probably going to be putting pork rinds on their recipe because I went so crazy happy about them today.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a big thing in the South. My husband's from the South, and I lived there 25 years, and everybody eats pork rinds. But I had another quick question, guys, because I know we're holding you long, but so we're talking about the fats, right? The fats absolutely satiate you and make you full. Our product also does that. I mean, I drink my keto in the morning, about a couple hours after I do water and vinegar and all that first, and then I'll do a fat bomb or whatever, and then I'll drink my keto. And I mean, I'm not hungry until dinner. But calories are calories too. So I tell people you still have to be kind of paying attention to calories as far as if you're trying to lose some weight. But I've had a few people ask me, is because they're not hungry, can they eat too little so that their body would still tend to want to go into that starvation mode? Now, I thought that it wouldn't because of the fats and because we're in ketosis. But I don't know if you guys can clear that up for me a little bit more.
I think that there is a stage where that can be a factor. I call that starvation. And then I believe a lot of that has to come to is how well their body can metabolize their own fat stores. So it is something that I tell people not to worry about for the first month of doing this. Because I look at it as 4 macronutrients. When you measure it, you're measuring the dietary fat you intake, the protein you intake, the carbohydrates you intake, and then the amount of fat your body can utilize for itself. And so that actually adds up to your total caloric intake. But I often find people are over-consuming, and they think, without doing a true metabolic test to know exactly how many calories you're utilizing in the first place, we don't really know. We have an idea, but we really don't know. So I would rather people, if they're not hungry, lean low and then come back up. Because if they stay high and they don't lose weight, then they quit, and then they never really gave it a chance because maybe metabolically they're just not their metabolism is really slowed down. And so, I mean, on Sundays, just one of my things, I almost always on Sundays only eat one meal, and I eat around 4 o'clock. So I only probably consume 500 or 600 calories on Sundays. I've been doing it for years, and no, not every Sunday. Sometimes my wife will take me to a brunch or something. But it's a practice that people utilize in different cultures and have for a long period of time. And I have no concerns because I know I'm in ketosis. In a state of ketosis, you preserve muscle tissue from being broken down. It preserves the metabolism from being broken down. But in an extended amount of time, I am concerned about that. If they did it for weeks and weeks, more than 7 days, I'd have more concerns if it was too low.
Okay, great. Brian, do you have any feelings on that too, or have you run into that?
I challenge people usually. I say I in terms of overeating, I challenge someone to eat too much fat. It's practically impossible because you cannot. Someone asked Gary Taubes one time, because his premise is it's not calories that make you fat. It's the kinds of calories. It's the carbs, the insulin spikes, that's the whole bit. And someone asked him, well, if I eat 10,000 calories a day of fat, you're telling me I won't get fat? And Gary Taubes is saying, his response was, if you can eat 10,000 calories of fat in a day, you're going to die. You're not going to get fat. You're going to get really, really thin because you have overcome every single metabolic homeostasis hormone that you could possibly imagine to shovel that much fat into your face. In terms of overeating, in terms of undereating rather, I wrote an article about starvation isn't ketosis. So, and what I tell people is you gotta, like we were saying before, you listen to your body. Like when Dustin's talking about on Sundays, he only eats one meal. I can promise you that he is not clamoring for that 4 o'clock hour to arrive, and he's not just hovering over the food, and the only thing that's stopping him from is the clock. He's not hungry until then, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll eat, and he's fine. And that's the thing. What I tell people is that the greatest way you're going to know whether or not you're doing this right is you have energy and are you hungry? Those are the two things. If you have both, or if you have energy and you're not hungry, you're good. Just listen to your body. I've had people freak out at me because they weren't hungry for breakfast and they didn't know what was going on. I'm like, really? You're not hungry, so don't eat. Just, relax. And another thing that I'm kind of stealing what Dustin was saying is I tell people is you will never underconsume calories, period. Your body will break down whatever it needs in order to get the calories it needs. So don't worry about that. What you need to worry about is, are you hungry? And if you are, then eat lots of good fat. Do you have energy? If you don't, then you need to adjust some of the macros a bit. Because if you don't have energy, something's wrong.
Yeah, I love that, Brian. And that's absolutely right. It's like it took me years to learn that that's how I can work on Sundays. And it just comes out Sunday's the day I do that because I sleep in that day. Right. So I sleep in a little bit, and then I just have that, and I just get up and do my thing in the morning, and I'm not, and I agree. And that's the concern is if you go too long without eating and we're in starvation, that's when you're utilizing that muscle protein for fuel, and we don't want that, and that's because the people are not listening to their body. Or they're in a special forces unit and they don't have a choice.
Right. Well, I can say, me personally, I have gone 36 hours without eating before. Not frequently, but I've done it before for whatever reason. But it wasn't, I wasn't starving. I wasn't hungry. There are many days where I'll wake up. I don't feel like having any coffee, which I hate coffee, by the way. The only reason I drink it is because that's how I get my fat in the morning. If I could find a better vehicle for caffeine and fat, I would. But that's so far that's leading the charge. But won't have that, and I don't eat until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon just because I'm just not hungry, and it's not at all unusual.
Yeah, same here.
And to finalize that, one of the things that a common question I get for people is they say, well, wasn't that going to wreck my metabolism? And I always explain it this way, is that our ancestors thousands of years ago, if they had to eat every 3 hours to maintain their metabolism, they would have already screwed ours up.
Right.
And so it's just not the way, it's not an efficient way for any species to live, having to eat every 3 hours that want to evolve and be a driving force in civilization. So that's another big part.
It makes so much sense.
If I can tag onto that just one more time, sorry to interrupt, but again, my focus is on the mental aspect of all of this, and the amount of stress it causes you to have to eat every 3 hours is amazing. If you've ever done it, you may not you may not believe me, but I can promise you, every 3 hours you have to eat, you will stress out after 3 or 4 days. And if it continues, it will lead to depression. It doesn't, I've experienced it. I've watched other people do it. It is not a healthy way to do things. Eat when you're hungry, period. Just quit living your life by the clock. Live your life by what your body's telling you.
Yeah. I call that prisoners of food. You're basically a prisoner, and you have to maintain it all the time. And what's funny is when you do that, I've lived that lifestyle years ago. If I missed a meal, I was grumpy, angry, and a bad person. Like it just because my blood sugar was unstable, I didn't feel right, and this is a way more sustainable, enjoyable way to live.
Oh, absolutely. I did it too. And the other thing is you're obsessed. I was obsessed with, making sure you had all 6 meals, and then whatever one was going to be the quote big one, the clean one, which would be chicken breast and a baked potato and some broccoli. And you're absolutely right. I was a prisoner to it. Mm-hmm. And now it's like I have so much more time in a day because I'm not cooking all the time.
Exactly.
It's shocking to me. I've got a couple of girlfriends that are on this journey with me, and one girlfriend that just out and out quit the other day, and she's barely given it a chance. And it's just so funny to me how stressed out every time I talk to her, how stressed out she was about the diet, losing the weight. I don't know, something happened to me early on in this. First of all, I didn't feel hungry. That was shocking to me. That was a big thing. I was like, I'm not hungry. I didn't crave anything. I was worried about that. I was worried about my wine. I was worried about my lovely French stick with my gorgeous little blobs of butter.
Alarms.
And so, but what I found was interesting is once I was over that, and I just kind of settled into, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, I became calm about the whole thing. I cannot get over, and you must see this, Dustin, I can't get over how stressed out people get over, I got to lose weight. Like, they're just, like, almost to the point of, I don't know, uptight, so uptight about it.
Yeah, you're right, and the weight loss it's tough, and that's why I'm a big fan of educating and like Brian's talking about the psychology of this is why, like what do you need to lose weight for, like what's the really big reason here, and you kind of have to play that role to really help people, and I think I've gotten better at that over time, and I know when it's going to be a long haul for somebody, and in the fitness industry you actually drive that emotion to keep them as clients longer. Because the more that they believe that they need you to lose weight, the more they have to stay with you and keep paying you. Yeah. And I live in a world where I want to get rid of my clients as soon as possible so I can charge the next one more. And so I can work less, right? But it's tough. That psychology is huge, and I think that I like to bring in their family. I like to get all those dynamics. Like, just don't do it for you. Do this for your family. But we got to change those lifestyles. And I always talk about poker, Texas Hold'em. It's like, if you want to change your life, go all in. Put the chips in the middle of the table. Let's do this, and let's get educated. Learn a little bit more about how this is more powerful than just weight loss. And then if you can get them hooked in, sometimes I get somebody on weight loss because I get their mom hooked on Alzheimer's and the dementia side. Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so look at this, and now they have to stay on it because their mom has to stay on it, and now they got to teach their mom. So I sometimes play that role because they just got to get out of their own way.
Yeah, well, initially, I was looking at it for weight loss, and that is so on the back burner now. It is all the other health benefits that I've become a research nerd. I'm always reading articles. Nancy's always watching videos, and we just are always sharing this information. Like, I can't get enough of the information,
Well, and I loved when I got to go to Dallas and meet Brian Underwood and understand the company's philosophy, I fell in love with be better, human optimization, and being better. And I've done a few little videos on my Facebook feed, and it's interesting to me that when you tell people this is what my mission is, this is what I want to do, I want to help people to find a way to be better. That's why I find it so funny when people get so stressed about. I'm like, okay, but yesterday were you better than today? Are you better than you were yesterday?
Did you do something yesterday that differently so that today can be a better day? I fell in love with that concept, and I mean, you guys must see that too, because isn't that what this all is? Isn't that, I mean, I'm a better mom now than I was when I first started. I didn't know what I was doing. They handed me this baby
Yeah,
22
right.
years ago. I had no clue what to do with this baby, and now my baby's graduated from university and has an amazing job,
Making more money than me, by the way.
and so that's better. That's better than, you know, I was then. But that was a process. I didn't just birth a baby and went, okay, here she is, be an adult. Like there was a lot of steps in the middle, and I find it very interesting, as you said, Brian, the psychology of what goes on in people's minds. I mean, I know it's a lot when you finally decide to do something to change your life, when you finally go, that is it, enough is enough, I'm doing something to make life better. That's the moment when it's not just about, I've got to lose 20 pounds. That's the
Right.
moment when you're saying, I'm making a monumental change. You must see this. You must have people that you're counseling this bit with.
Yeah, and Dustin hit right upon, I think, one of the most powerful articles that I've written, and I'm not saying powerful from my perspective. I mean, the feedback that I've gotten from people who read it is an article that I wrote called Start With Why. And what I basically say is, I don't care what your why is, but you've got to have a why. And the reason you've got to have a why is you're going to encounter difficulties. You're going to have people who don't like what you're doing, especially if you're successful. And you have got to have an anchor point. You've got to have that why that you can keep coming back to, that can keep you on that path and keep you on that track to success. Without that, you're just adrift. And that is what happens to most people. And we're talking about the stress thing. Just the weight loss is only a small aspect of the stress. There's the tactical stress of having to deal with how are you gonna pull this off? Because if you don't have a why, if you don't have a reason for it, the tactical stress is enough to kill you. Keto got me out of a depression. I was in a pretty severe depression. I mean, it was bad. Like I didn't want to get out of bed, bad, and you know, it allowed me a form of clarity that I have previously I don't think I've ever experienced. I mean, I can't come to a point where I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I felt like this before. It's been unique in that regard, and it all has to do with, you know, figuring out who I am, why I'm doing this, how I want to get where I'm trying to go, where I'm trying to go, all those things. And if you just wake up one morning and you decide I'm going to change, you've got to be able to define that for yourself, you know, and without that, your chances of success are really, really slim.
Well, exactly, because I mean, how many times it's like smoking. I was never a smoker, but people that do smoke, they know there's research that says smoking is bad for your health. But what is that thing that makes you decide, I'm not picking up another cigarette, even though I have to go through withdrawal, even though I have to go through all the things, the cravings and everything else. It's like all last winter, last January, I know Debbie had a similar experience. I was addicted to creme brulee. They had it at Whole Foods. I was pretty much stopping on the way home to get a creme brulee. Now, I knew it was wrong. I knew it was bad. I could see myself ballooning up, but I did it anyways. So there was something in that moment, and in around that July moment when Debbie started talking to me about this, when I decided I will until, and I don't know if I could define it other than I didn't want her to get skinny and I'd still be fat. You know?
That's what girlfriends are for, right?
Well, you know.
But hey, yeah, but I'll tell you right now, that I don't care what your reason is. If that's your reason, make that your reason. Own it. And I've had people who they didn't want to tell me the real reason they wanted to lose, you know, they wanted to go keto because they were ashamed or they thought it was superficial. I don't care what your reason is. You've got to have a reason.
Yep, and it's your reason. So it can't be wrong. It can't be wrong if it's your reason.
Right. The only person that you can lie to is yourself on that. And if you're being honest with yourself and you know absolutely why you're doing it, then you're halfway there already.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Nance.
You there, Debbie?
Nope. Go ahead.
I was just going to say
Brian, I've been so thankful that you were able to come on tonight. We're getting close to that hour mark, and I didn't want to keep you much longer. I know you've got to run with to get your kids and be the dad now, play the dad.
Right.
But I really, really super appreciate it. If you got any closing remarks, I would love to, anything that you just to give us a suggestion as to one thing, and then we'll get a closing remark from Dustin.
I think that really is my closing remark. That's what I tell people is you got to start with why. Know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and realize that you're not alone. If you think you're alone, then you're wrong. You need a support group. If nothing else, you can come on to my group that I've started on Facebook. That's not a shameless plug. If you have no other place to go, you can go there. Know your reason, get support, want it, and actually work for it. Don't make excuses, work for it. That's really all there is to it.
Thank you so much. I really can't thank you enough for coming on, and I'm hoping that if we invite you on again, and you'll be able to come back and join us on another hangout. I want to just also to thank. Oh yeah, I want to thank Dustin. You're our guy. We just love having you on. I would love for you to give thoughts on what we just talked about, because you're quiet there for a minute, and then we'll let Debbie wrap it up.
Yeah, Brian, I agree. I think the why is the key. If the why is strong enough, the how always seems to figure itself out. And if you can wrap your mind around that, and Michael Rutherford does a really good job, and I've kind of modeled some of his work that he's done, is he celebrate your successes. And a lot of that's just the psychology that we've dealt with in our lives and looking within, and you're always growing as a person. If you're not growing, you're kind of dying. So let's try to just be better in any way we can. This lifestyle works. If it doesn't, then most likely you just didn't want to learn about what's happening within yourself, why you're changing down that way. And so I always tell people, commit, get educated, learn, and stay plugged in. I agree with the community thing. When I left and worked with my clients, and then they all had to go on their own, I noticed they started drifting back. And it's because I didn't do a good enough job of creating a strong enough community. And with technology and modern technology, the fact that 4 of us people are, one's in, Brian, you're in Texas, right?
I am.
Yeah, so we have Texas, we have Canada, we have Boston, we have California. We have a community here, and then we have 100 people listening and watching this right now. That's awesome. That's a community. So reach out to us, all of us, at any time, and let us support each other, because all those people on this call tonight want to be the example for the people that we care about, to inspire them to have a better life. And that's where this stems from. It's about us, but it's about us being the best we can be, so that all of you guys can do the same, so that this world that we live in can be as awesome as it can really be. So just keep being awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, really. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Brian. I'm so glad to meet you, Brian. I've heard so much about you. You guys are both absolutely awesome, shared wealth of information that I know so many people are going to get a benefit out of. Nancy, I love you. Thank you for always being you. And, we have mirrored our group after what you guys are talking about. We are a community, and we are a family, and we totally want everybody to know, and if you're watching this, know, just like Dustin said, reach out to us. We are there to help. Part of my being better is I want to be a better mother, a better wife, but I want to be a better human being in the world. I want to have more significance in my life. And I want to be significant to those of you that, are looking for something in some way to be better. So I'm so excited to be part of this. And, reach out, and I wish you the best of luck. And don't go it alone. We're here to help you. So keto on. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.